Hey guys, Taylor with KC here, and today we're going to be looking at how to install the KC MRAX roof rack onto 2019 to current Ford Rangers. Now this is a pretty detailed installation process. There's a lot of different steps that go into this, so make sure that you watch this video through all the way in its entirety before you start the install process. Now at the same time, you're going to want to make sure that you have 2 days for a full install on these trucks. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of steps that go into it, so you just want to make sure that you give yourself enough time to fully install the roof rack here on this truck. So with that, let's go ahead and show you step by step exactly everything you got to do in order to have the best install possible on your Ford Ranger. To get started, the first step that you see Randy and Bobby working on is to assemble the roof rack. You'll want to assemble it upside down on a table. Start by inserting the carriage bolts for the side light brackets and then bolt the crossbars to the side rails. Then you can install the side light brackets onto the carriage bolts that you just put into the crossbars, and then finally install the nylock nuts. Once the rack is assembled on the table, then you'll move over to the Ranger to prep it for the install. As you can see, the headliner needs to be dropped. So to do this, you'll start by removing the sun visors and the little clips that they go into. Then you can remove the weather stripping from all 4 of the door frames. Then you'll remove the grab handles in the front of the vehicle. And then once you have those removed, go ahead and pull off the interior A-pillar covers. Just make a note that on the driver's side, you'll want to rotate and handle the airbag cables very carefully to get them out of the A-pillar interior cover. Next, you'll move on to the B-pillar covers on the inside of the Ranger. You'll start by removing the seatbelt buckle up at the top there, as you can see in the video, and then use firm and even pressure to pull out of the top of this plastic cover just to free up the headliner. Once the B pillars are finished up, then you'll go on to the back and work on the C pillars. You'll start by removing the plastic cover, exposing the bolt for the seatbelt buckle, and you'll pull that entire assembly off, and then again, you'll loosen the plastic cover for the C pillar just to give the headliner a little bit of freedom to be pulled off later on. After that, you'll then remove both of the rear grab handles. Next, it's time to move on to the gutter extrusion nuts. Remove the front gutter extrusion nut with a 10mm socket and a 6-inch extension. And then loosen the rear gutter extrusion nut with a 10mm box end wrench while pulling down on the headliner to access it. Please note that the retaining nut doesn't come off, but that the bolt can be removed from the top as shown in the next step. Then, once all of the hardware is removed, go onto the top of your Ranger and use a plastic tool to pry up on the gutter weather stripping to completely remove it from the roof of your vehicle. Once it's removed, you'll then remove the rear gutter extrusion bolt by clamping on a vice grip onto the bolt and then loosening the nut from the bottom. Masking off the roof of the vehicle with blue painter's tape simply helps protect the paint when installing the MRAC onto the vehicle. Now it's time to move back to the MRAC on the table.
You want to install the forward-facing light bar, which in this case is our Gravity LED Pro 6 light bar, onto the MRAC before you put the MRAC onto the vehicle to mark the locations for the holes. One thing to take note of is that the back antenna can be a little tricky to maneuver around, so you can either remove that antenna or just maneuver around it as you place the MRAC onto the roof. Then put the spacers onto the roof underneath where the mounting tabs will go once you lift the MRAC onto the roof of the vehicle. Get the MRAC completely centered and exactly where you want it, and then mark the hole locations for where you're going to need to drill into the roof of the vehicle. Then you can start by drilling out all of your hole locations. You want to start with the 1/16 of an inch drill bit as your pilot hole, and then gradually step up to your final size of a Q-size drill bit. Now we recommend using a drill stop as shown in the video there, just to make sure that you don't puncture through to the side airbags. Then you can use a Rivnut installation tool to install the included OEM grade Rivnuts. Before you set the spacers onto the roof, you want to put a Hershey's Kiss sized dollop of silicone onto the spacer just to make sure that everything remains watertight. Then you can go ahead and maneuver the MRAC back onto the roof of the Ford Ranger. After that, then you can bolt the MRAC into the Rivnuts. Once the MRAC is fastened completely to the top of your Ranger, then you can install the side lights by attaching them to the bracket tabs and then sliding everything into position and tightening. Then, the only remaining step is to wire up all of your lights.
So as you can see here, we've just finished up the install onto this Ford Ranger of our KC MRACs. Now, as you saw, there are a bunch of steps that went into installing the roof rack onto this truck here, but if I can say so myself, I think the end result is absolutely worth it on these trucks. Now, at the same time, we went ahead and installed this Trigger 6-shooter switch system, which includes the switch panel here, but also the module underneath the hood so that we can connect all of our lights to it. As you can see, this is a wireless switch system here. It operates off of RF, and then there's also a Bluetooth app for your phone. But I can go ahead and control the lights independently of being inside the vehicle, which is pretty cool. So in the description below, I have included the link for the KC MRACs for these Ford Rangers, so you can go ahead and check that out. Now, if you have any questions about the install process at all, please feel free to leave a question or comments in the links below. I'll try to answer those as quick as I can. Thank you guys for watching, and remember to adventure further.